everybody. We are 10 minutes away from the tour. I'm actually about to walk to the head of the driveway so we can start watching with people. Why don't you come along with me? It's a really, really exciting time for us, right? First time, this property we just finished. It's really, really exciting. We're gonna have a whole bunch of people here. We're gonna get some feedback. 30 investors, some of the top investors in the country that are here to have a look at what we've done and some of the results we can achieve. We can't wait to see you here.
It's a beautiful area around here.
It's a beautiful area.
Last time we came, it was pitch dark, and we just had dinner at the Thai restaurant. And
yes.
We'll have to come back, you know, when we can actually see.
Well, we are in the, not all of Druin is like this.
Yeah, we're
on the fancy part of Druin, yeah?
Yeah, how are you?
Great you could make it, man.
G'day, mate. Good to be here.
The whole thing about getting registered and stuff is, so it's two things. There's the health and safety stuff, so I might actually send you an email at some point saying, can you send me your man's details so we can put it in? But it's also making sure we have enough food and drinks and stuff. So, it's not an exclusivity thing, so don't worry. Thank you. It's exciting. It's the first time we actually show these properties to the public. We've been building them for a long time.
Yeah, because I've seen your like branding, Horizon. I'm like, oh, I've always got to go and ask you what it is and stuff. And then this came up, I was like, right, now's the time to do a Google search.
Yeah.
So yeah, I had no idea you did the constructions for.
Yeah, we do. That's kind of all we do. So, but we've always been, because a lot of these properties are regional and they're not, we used to think they're not super exciting properties, right?
Yeah.
We're like, well, what is it, right? A big house with lots of bedrooms. All the exciting stuff for us is all behind the walls. And but it was only once we started talking to people that we realized, all right, there is actually something interesting to see here. And particularly today is very special because this will never happen again. Because we finished two properties at about the same time, but they're very different from each other. So one of the things that we want to do is we want to show the contrast between this property and the ones we're going to see after. Let's just move here a little bit, because I want to tell you a little bit about the story of this property. So, we have a bit of a challenge today, right? So, someone who's very good at organizing events, so 30 people register, 15 will show up. And not quite 30 people show up, but definitely more than we thought would. I'm also now realizing what 25 people look like. And I know how small those spaces are. So it's gonna get cozy. So just be a little bit patient. But I want everyone to have a look. So thank you for coming. We're actually humbled that these many people drove all the way from all the places you come through and come from to kind of go and have a look at a couple of our projects. And we're really excited actually to show you what we've done here. It's actually, some of you will have seen some of my stuff in the past with townhouse developments and both my projects and the projects I used to build with a builder I used to work with and things like that. But this is the first time we're actually showing any of our rooming houses to anyone that it's kind of not a client or someone involved directly with one of our projects. So I gotta admit it's a little bit nerve-wracking because you never know what people are gonna think. But at the same time, we're really excited because it's the first time that we're hopefully gonna get some pretty good sort of external feedback and external view, particularly from a group of kick-ass investors like you guys, right? So, I can ask people in the street and they'll tell me whatever they think, but they don't know nothing about anything really. Whereas the people around here have the curse of knowledge, which means that you guys all know what a rooming house is, you guys all know what can be achieved. Some of you also who know me personally have a very close awareness of what rooming houses have done for me personally, and this is this is a strategy that made me, ultimately financially free, and I actually don't own any investment properties that are not this stuff. All right, so interesting learning opportunity here. So what you guys have just seen, right, is as we were over there, right, our two neighbors, right, over there and over there, they're sort of quite concerned of what this is. In fact, it's probably the first time that they've openly realized what it is. And who's going to live here, and what we're going to do with cars, and it's all going to be kind of people who have kind of, let's call them social challenges or behavioral challenges, or who is it going to be? And again, we're super transparent about what we do and how we do it, right? We're very, very visible, right? So, but we're also very, very transparent with you guys, right? I'm here to kind of show you this stuff in the hope that you guys learn something about the strategy and how it works, and what the results can be and all that sort of stuff, and also have a look at the property, right? But one of the things to be completely aware, if you decide to invest in this sort of stuff, is that stuff that happened just there will happen in almost every project. I think we have one project, we actually keep a tally in the office, it's one project where that hasn't happened out of all the projects we've done. Everywhere else, we have a neighbor that is either unhappy or concerned, or to different degrees, everything from completely hostile all the way to pretty civilized conversations like the one we have there, right? So it's something for you to be aware of, right? Particularly if you're going to do this on your own, right? Because, be prepared that someone will not like it, right? It's a bit of a challenge if the neighbors are not there when you start, like it was our case. That house next to us was not there when we started building here, right? And in fact, we're going to build a rooming house here and a rooming house there. So we couldn't do that level of engagement. So it was only once we got to the tail end of the project that, that some of those things popped up. But because we've done it so many times, we had a good plan of, how we explain to people that, how we make them realize the obvious, which is you don't invest $1 million in a property like this to have a whole bunch of, criminals living in it and creating noise and problems and stuff, right? So we want high quality tenants the same way that they want. Now, we're a little bit advantaged because we know the end of the movie, right? We have, quite a few of these properties where we know there are 9, 10, 12 people living there, and the neighbors couldn't even tell because people don't come here and spend a huge amount of time here. People come here, sleep, then, they wake up, they might do a couple of things in their own little studios, and then, out to work, out to study, out to whatever the rest of their lives feels like. Does that make sense? Yep. Mm-hmm. All right, so you are standing in the only living space this whole building has, right? So this building is about 300 square meters. In fact, it's technically above 300 square meters of construction, but it's sort of 300 square meters inside these walls, 299, should I say? In fact, it's 299.90.
That sounds like a very important number.
It is a very important number. Does anyone know why 300 square meters is important in a rooming house?
Yes.
That's it. So it's actually not the maximum size. If you have 300 square meters, you cannot build a rooming house. It needs to be less, which is why 299.90, it's perfect. And it kind of sounds funny, but the reason why that porch that Agan is sitting next to, it's recessed a little bit, is because we were over 300 square meters. So the reason why this space is here is primarily for compliance reasons. Yeah, we need to have a living area, and this is the minimum size that I could stand in front of a judge one day and say, I reckon that's a living area. So we have 3 bathrooms here. One is technically a powder room, but there's nothing in the code that says a powder room cannot have a shower, a toilet, and all those stuff that you expect in one of those. And obviously the disabled toilet, which is critically important, right? So now before I try to figure out how I show you around this place, any questions?
Just to clarify, you have 5 bedrooms here.
So we have 9 bedrooms here.
9 bedrooms.
Yes.
And you only need a living area to sit 2 people?
That's correct. So the code says you need to have the living area needs to accommodate the maximum number of occupants in one room. The number of rooms actually doesn't matter.
I noticed there's no fridges. Is that because there's a fridge in the room?
There's fridge in every room. Yes, absolutely. Again, we're trying to avoid people sharing.
Yes.
I left my Chinese food in the fridge, and I think someone ate, 3 bites more than I have eaten last night, even though I came home drunk or whatever, right? So, we ended up bringing it in-house. So there's 2 main drivers in our, let's call it our design philosophy, right? One is functionality. We want the place to work, right? And that's why we go and travel to a lot of these places to see how they make it work, right? So I just came back from Japan, and we spent, 4 days in Tokyo having a look at tiny little apartments. No one does it better like the Japanese. Close second is people in New York City. So functionality, incredibly important for us. We want the place to work. They're small, they're tiny, they need to be super functional. In addition to functionality, the next one, probably as important as functionality, is durability, right? So everything you see here, from the walls you're leaning against, to the floor you're standing on, to the cabinets that are behind me, everything has been chosen specifically to last a long, long time, right? And to be abused, really. We don't want people to abuse our properties, but inevitably, some people do, right? So you will see, for example, we didn't go fancy stone in the kitchens, right? It's laminate. In fact, it's basic laminate. It's not even super fancy, right? The reason why we're picking this one, and particularly why we're picking this color, is because it can take a pounding, right, before you can see anything, right? White cabinets, they can last, kind of forever, We could probably get something exactly the same price that look better, that look fancier, but it's never about looks, yeah? It's only about 2 things. What are those 2 things? Functionality, durability. And in terms of energy efficiency, this setup is way more efficient than using induction cooktops.
Is that the only gas appliance you have here?
No, our hot water systems are gas too. In fact, it's actually a pretty good question. Our hot water system, one of the things that you're going to find, and you're going to see a lot, again here we only have a couple bathrooms, so it's not too bad, but when you have 9 bathrooms, one of the biggest challenges is what happens with hot water. Again, try to eliminate sources of conflict, try to create people independent so they can live the life they want without having to deal or coordinate with anybody else.
The time frames of the construction?
Yeah, great question. So this property, and properties like this one, in fact, all properties we're going to see today were built somewhere between 6 and 8 months, somewhere around there.
Including the planning stage?
There's no planning stage.
It includes conversion to class 1A to class 1B?
Yeah. So this one took. So yes, the work all put together in this property was about 8 months. Now, obviously, there was a gap between we finishing as a house and we starting the conversion. So we need to, put new plans, get new permits, plus we need to leave some empty space for the bank to do its thing, and for my client to figure out how he was going to fund the conversion as well. But in terms of construction time, it's somewhere between 6 and 8 months for properties like this. Yeah, so they're very similar to each other, very similar design principles. My original intention was to run you through this one so I could show you a whole bunch of stuff. However, sometimes having a great team is a bad thing, particularly when they decide to work on a Sunday. And they weren't booked to work on a Sunday. So yeah, the air conditioning team is actually they're doing the final fit of for air conditioning on this unit because flooring got done a day and a half earlier. So the flooring here is already done, and it's not quite ready, but it's fairly advanced. So most of what I was going to show you here, I'll show you in the other property. But I still wanted to point you to kind of the difference between the two, right? So this block of land is about 14.5 meters wide, whereas the next block is 12.5 meters wide, which normally not a big difference, but you'll see as we get into the properties how close to those boundaries we are, which means this house is about 1.5 meters wider, right? However, this block of land is shallower, which means that we also had to compress the stuff towards the front of the house more than we normally would, yeah? Now, like I said, my real intention was for get you guys to kind of walk around and kind of see if you could notice the difference. But you're gonna have to trust me for it. We'll see some plans when we get to the other place about what changes we kind of sort of made, particularly around things like kitchenettes and that sort of stuff. However, this is your chance to get free beer or soft drink. What differences you see between this property and the one we saw just before? And you can't say the other one was nicer looking than this one. We knew that one already, I told you. What else?
Garage.
Garage, that's it. So the other one did not have a garage. Here we are in a new estate, and a new estate has rules that are beyond building code, beyond what normal residential code and round planning code has. So in this one is part of the rules that you should have a garage. Good, bad, ugly, who has any ideas? Yeah, you can use it for storage. That's a good. Yeah. Can you do the laundry there? No, you could maybe, but we didn't.
Convert that to another bath later on.
What's that?
Can you convert it to another bath later on?
Can you convert it into another bath? No, you can't do that. No. Good idea though.
300 square meters.
There you go. What do you say?
It eats up part of your 300.
It eats up part of your 300 square meters because that happens to have walls around it. And the way the 300 square meters I was talking about before is 300 square meters measured from the outside of the external walls, which here happen to be on the outside of the garage, right? So that means, and you're going to see it very, very obviously when we go to the next property, so when we go to the one that we're kind of going and walk and all this sort of stuff, that it's about 35 to 40 square meters that we lose there. And it makes a massive difference in the layout of the house, right? It doesn't mean we can't do it. We definitely do it. And we still can make it work, and I still think it's a pretty good product and a pretty high product. Now, will I prefer to not have a garage? Absolutely, because then I can use, then I could use that space in something else. Now, if it wasn't a garage, but it was a carport, does anyone have an idea what that would mean?
Not included.
That's it, because then it will not have external walls. Right? Even though it's on the roof, and it's still construction, and you still have to pay to build the thing. Now the wall is not on the outside of the garage, the wall will be in the inside of the carport, right? Between the carport and the house, potentially. Which means that you get back all of that space and you can use it wherever you want to, yeah? So now here, we really didn't have a choice, so we went and did what we needed to do, right?
Did you have to have a double garage? Couldn't you have?
No, the rules said double garage, yeah. Now again, you'll see other people build roomy houses who can do stuff that looks like a garage, but it's not, and then you open the thing and it's a meter deep and it's like a pretend garage. We don't build that way. We are completely compliant, we don't break the rules, because you eventually get caught, so.
So you're not allowed to do that, retrofit it that way?
Well, you technically no. You can do it and maybe no one will notice ever, but maybe you can drive drunk for the rest of your life and you don't get caught either. That doesn't make it a good thing, yeah? So, and I'm not saying you, by the way, personally. I'm just, I should have gone for speeding or something less controversial. But that's just who I am. Now the neighbors are probably going to be, so there's two sides to it, right? One of it is the remaining neighbors are probably going to be even more concerned because it's like, okay, well now you're talking, 36 people living in a pretty short. However, I don't think I'm going to have a problem with the neighbor that side, am I? No. So yeah, it is. But it's like everything, right? So we always do the planning, and I don't mean the town planning, I mean the planning of these projects, very, very aware of where we do them, how we do them, who do we have around us, who could we have around us, right? We assume everyone around us could be another rooming house, because it could be, right? So, I mean, if it's a perfect site for us, it'll be a perfect site for other people, right? I mean, I have 32 really, really driven people around here who could go tomorrow and say, oh, that block of land, we're going to do one, right? And I don't think that's necessarily a problem. The shortage of this type of accommodation is so big that it didn't matter if we had 50 rooming houses in this street. It wouldn't be enough to satisfy demand, right? So, parking will be an issue. However, it's a pretty long street. So, like I said, right, we have 25 cars parked here. You can hardly tell, right? So, I don't think it's going to be an issue at all. We've had, at the peak of construction, we've had 35 construction cars and trucks parked here. You couldn't even tell where they are. So yeah, parking is not an issue. You just might have to do like I did, just walk a little bit from further out. So, all right. Can you tell this block of land is narrower than the last one, than that one over there, right? But basically kind of same type of things, right? Now, it's a garage there like any other garage. It's a roof like any other roof. It's bricks like any other bricks. A bit of cladding, right? But other than that, there's literally no difference between this house and any of the ones around it. Because we designed to fit with the environment where we built, right? Now, this is planned middle of suburbia. There's nothing special about this estate. It's good, it's nice, it's, but, it's nothing really special. So we built a house that feels and looks like a house. What's that? There's a bus in that last runabout that you went through. That's where the bus goes through. So it's about 150-meter walk, maybe. Now, this one is literally ready to move in, bar, couple touch-ups and stuff that we do kind of in parallel. It's already been registered. Landscaping is done. Can you tell the landscaping is done? All done, cross rock, mulch. Can anyone guess why we did this for landscaping? This is only two things, that we do when we design rooming houses. Does anyone still remember the two things? Durability and functionality, So this is a perfect functional landscape that happens to be pretty durable, pretty low maintenance, Like no one cares if you have a nice tree in the front of a rooming house, right? It's just something in the way of getting there. At the same time, we don't want just dirt and rock and crap, right? So we do some landscaping, and just say you're going to see the same thing all around most of our properties, where we make it functional, but nothing that people need to mow the lawn or do anything like that. So when we first spoke to them about what we were going to do, they kind of went like, no, we'll never approve a rooming house. So like, well, can't really do that. Because in the rules, don't say anywhere that it'll probably be illegal anyway if it said it, but it didn't say you cannot build a rooming house. It only said you have some requirements, particularly around the facade, needed a garage, a couple of finishes, some of those things that we did anyway. But it didn't have anything about that. But as it is the case with a lot of stuff, rooming house, people don't understand, and when people don't understand, they either make shit up or they act out of fear, right? And they go, oh, no, we don't want that. So why don't we want that? Well, because that's not a house. Well, it is sort of a house, and it's residential, and it kind of meets. So in the case of this one, which is the first one that we're doing in this state, we decided to bend a bit the design to meet the requirements, so it wasn't super. What you're seeing today is what we built. What you're seeing today is what we submitted to the state. We didn't submit anything different. But also, we wanted to keep options open for the investor who owns this property around financing, right? Because it wasn't clear which type of finance he wanted to use, right? He said, well, what if I want to go residential? What if I want to go commercial? So we basically kind of hedge our bets a little bit. He ended up getting a commercial loan, so it didn't have any impact. But some of the remnants of having to go through that process, it's kind of part of what you're going to see here today. Yeah, so.
Is it legal for a normal car to park here?
It is legal for a normal car to park there. It's private property. No, it is private. Yeah, it's actually a great question, right? Because I did get this question asked, not so much here, but some of the other properties that unfortunately we didn't get a chance to show you, that are in more sort of suburban blocks. What we tend to do is at the front of it there, all of that will be car park. Yeah, if we were in a suburban block that doesn't have all these extra regulations, right? And we had the space, so we might have 5, 6 car parks out there. One of them will be that one, and then you'll have this one here, right? There's actually nothing. You're still in private property, which means there's nothing. No one's going to find you if you park your normal car there. Right? You're not actually breaking any rules, because there are no rules. You're not in public land where the rules apply, right? The rule is you need to have one. It doesn't necessarily say who needs to use it. In fact, you could potentially park another car here. Here, we didn't do it, but normally that bollard will be just forward enough that you can parallel park someone there. So going back to that conversion, if you are looking at doing a conversion and you are considering converting a garage or something that looks like a garage into a room or part of your area, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying it's impossible. Definitely possible. But I'm just saying just make sure that you do your own due diligence and you talk to, whether it's me or another builder, or to kind of really check if it can be done. Sometimes it can be done. Sometimes this is a structural part of the slab of the house. Particularly around townhouses and stuff happens a lot, right? You'll see the structure of the car spaces being as structural as over there, as insulated. Then you just need to deal insulation here, windows, that sort of stuff. But in a place like this, it'll probably cost more to convert this into a room than just building it the first time. All right, so let me tell you what the inside looks like, and then we'll run you a little bit through it too. So that first room, like always, is a disabled room. It's actually not too different to the rooms you saw in the other place, with the exception that it has a kitchenette. Now that kitchenette, it's not disabled, it doesn't have disability access. It's not accessible. We haven't met any of those requirements, but we did not need to meet any of those requirements, right? Because for us, those kitchenettes are classified as furniture. You're going to see they don't have any sinks, and that was on purpose. That was delivered because of some of the rules that this particular council imposed on us. Someone asked me a question about in the other block, maybe it was you or I can't remember, you maybe, asked me about sliding doors and things. It was you actually, wasn't it? Yeah. So when we get to the end, and we'll talk a little bit about general stuff, and I'll show you some of the numbers and stuff, I'll tell you the story about sliding doors. So this property will be perfect to have sliding doors. You'll see as you go into the rooms that they have very similar doors, very similar windows to the ones we saw in the other property. And it's because despite our first attempt at putting sliding doors, we designed them for sliding doors, we couldn't do it. Not physically, we couldn't do it because of the rules. Now we'll talk about that and about the why of that when we get to the back. So if you follow me, very similar flooring. It's actually exactly the same floor, just a different color to what we had last time. Room either side. Again, we'll go for a walk after. Oh, there's one more thing I want to show you. Sorry to backtrack. And it's this room. This room is a special room. As you can tell, same door as everyone else, but it doesn't have a number. The reason why it doesn't have a number is because this is our storage. Okay?
My secrets.
Right? I'm glad it's not dirty underwear. This is where Louis sleeps if he's here late one night. And no, you cannot turn that into a room either, right? There's actually no windows in there.
And it's not big enough.
It's a big one. Is this
this a storage?
It is a storage, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I'm complaining that Henry's revealing my secret.
Again, the old rooms are identical, so don't feel you need to go through all of them necessarily. Feel free to kind of roam around a little bit. Each one has its own ensuite, its own kitchenette, its own bed. Hopefully they're clean.